Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh my God, y'all. We have so much to get into. What's up with my eyebrow? We have so much to get into. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm letting those notifications go out. Hope everybody's having a great. Is it Sunday? It is Sunday, and we have so much to get into. So we're going to be flying by through a lot of things. But before we get started, let me hit this intro so I can tell the people that we are live and hopefully those notifications go out. Let's do the intro. Hold up. Wait a minute.
Bruh.
Did you hit the like button? Drop some rabbits in the chat. Let's go.
Hit that like, hit that like. Welcome to the chat. Let's chit chat, hit chat. Hit that like, hit that like. Drop some rabbits in the chat. Drop some rabbits, drop some rabbits, drop some drop them, drop them, drop them. Drop some rabbits in the chat. Drop some rabbits, drop some rabbits, drop them, drop them, drop them, drop them. Drop some rabbits in the chat. Drop some rabbits. If you want the tea, come see me. Rabbit hole is the place to be for real news, not fake news. Celebrity news, breaking news around the clock. Real talk, best on the block. I rock, I rock, I rock, I rock. Real talk, best on the block. I rock, I rock. Hit that like, hit that like. Welcome to the chat. Let's chit chat, hit chat. Hit that like, hit that like. Drop some rabbits in the chat. Drop some rabbits, drop some rabbits, drop some drop them, drop them, drop them, drop them. Drop some rabbits in the chat. Drop some rabbits, drop some rabbits, drop them, drop them, drop them, drop them. Drop some rabbits in the chat. Drop some rabbits. True crime is my specialty. Exposing the industry. Unsolved mysteries. Sticking to reality. Fair use commentary. Talking about cults. Trying to get results. Exploring cults. Exploring. Researching. Debunking. Investigating. Being nosy. Super nosy. Being messy. Being shady. Rabbit hole news. That's me. The chick with ADHD. Unmedicated. But quite educated. Hit that like. Hit that like. Welcome to the chat. Let's chit chat. Hit chat. Hit that like. Hit that like. Drop some rabbits in the chat. Drop some rabbits. Drop some rabbits. Drop some drop them. Drop them. Drop them. Drop some rabbits in the chat. Drop some rabbits. Drop some rabbits. Drop them. Drop them. Drop them. Drop them. Drop some rabbits in the chat. Drop some rabbits. Hit that like. Hit that like. Let's go. Let's go. Let's start the show. Let's start the show. Let's start the show. Let's start the show. Let's start the show.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, guys. We have to get started. Was it Daisy Girl that asked me, am I wiped? I have been working very hard. I am exhausted, but the best thing is like at night I'm sleeping. I'm actually sleeping. That's how tired I am. I'm like, oh, but you know what? We got to deliver. We have to deliver. And I told you guys we were going to deliver. Okay. And that's what we're going to do. All right. We have so many, I still have more videos to do pre-recorded, but yes, the way I'm seeing this is there's how many people have there's been several witnesses to this case, so I kind of want to balance it. Sometimes it's easier for me to go live and just read something versus recording it, so I'm trying to figure out like what makes sense at that moment. I'm also trying to there's some testimony, direct cross-examination for those that are kind of coming in and you're like, what are y'all talking about? We're talking about the Sean P. Diddy Puff Daddy versus the United States case, the RICO case, right, that we've been covering. So it's easier for me to just sometimes go live and read stuff and then than it is to record, because recording requires a lot of editing and I get interrupted a lot. I have to go back and edit. It just takes too long. And so I'm trying to balance it, right? And also by demand. Sometimes people are like, ooh, I want to hear what Kid Cudi had to say, or I want to hear what so-and-so had to say on this testimony. And I'm like, you know what? Let's just go right there and then we'll just kind of work our way. We're okay. All right. I got my little legal pad, and if you know, it says legal. My handwriting is chicken scratch, as you guys can see. Look at that. I got this notepad at the Dollar Tree. And I don't know if they have them anymore. I went over there the other day and I can't find them. And I love it because I just love the, I'm sure I can find one similar, but first of all, the gram on the page is perfect because I like that it's not so thick. And then on the side, and I'm a bullet point kind of person. If you guys can see that, I create my own little check marks. That's what I do. Yeah, so I have been just writing and picking things up. But while we got the transcripts, which is amazing, shout out to everybody that donated. I appreciate you 1000%. We have 6 more weeks of this, and we're going to see right through this, because I want to make sure that we do. All right. Some of you guys have gone in my comments and said, man, I'm so happy that you got the transcripts, because now this makes sense. Why did they say this on social media, but this was actually said on the transcripts? There is this thing, and it's kind of sad to even see. I'm noticing it too. But even some of the people that are actually in the courtroom are kind of making up a different narrative. And I'm like, but that's not what the transcript says. So that's interesting. And it's only a select few, like not everybody. I love and I follow Make It Make Sense when he does his breakdowns, because he's actually there. And then, of course, Armand Wiggins, another person. I know Neek at Night has been out there too, who's been like, really doing a fair and well job. All of them, for the most part. I think that some of them are doing very well with being able to interpret what is happening. And I honestly look to see how much does it match the court transcripts before like anything. So yes. Okay. Let's see. 6 more weeks plus however long it takes the jury to deliberate. Yes, Andrew, shout out to you, Andrew. I haven't seen you. I hope you're doing well. And yeah, and all of them only give half of the story. And I noticed that too, Deborah. Like sometimes I feel like, because it's hard, okay? I don't know how the court reporters do it. I don't think I could do it. But I give it to them. Like, honestly, I hear Mims do it very well. Armand do it very well. There's certain, for me, those two are the ones that do it the best when it comes to the breakdown. And then there's Sneak at Night. I feel like when I read the transcripts and I'm hearing what they're saying, they could tell you when they're feeling a certain type of way about something, and then you can match it to the transcript. And now it's like, oh, okay, I'm not there, but I'm able to make sense about what's going on. And I love how Armand is just like, he's a bit of a storyteller. So, and then there's Rotten Mango too. All of them are kind of like storytellers. So sometimes I don't feel left out, if that makes sense. Like I'm like, okay, but I got the transcripts, and that kind of matches that. Zoe, thank you so much for gifting 1 membership. Thank you, my love. Put some hearts in the chat or confettis if you've been blessed. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, my love. Whoever got that. Okay. Excuse me. So we got stuff to get going through. Before we really get to the meat up potatoes of this live, because we're going to do a little bit of a transcript review and read, but we also have a couple things that are happening. So with the Diddy trial, you know what I find so interesting? We are what if you include jury selection, this would be the end of week 3, right? We're going into week 4. But if you don't include the jury, it would be like going to week 3. Okay. So you guys notice, if you've been following, you guys notice just something that I noticed. The only 2 civil lawsuits that have been mentioned so far in this criminal aspect, Cassie and Don Richard, right? I haven't heard, out of all the ones that Tony Busby filed, that a lot of other people filed, I have not seen a whole lot of what's the word? Other lawsuits being mentioned. Don't forget that when this situation with Diddy first broke, they said that there were celebrity sex tapes. The only celebrity that we know of so far is Cassie, unless you include the Punisher as a celebrity, which I don't even think that they had a tape per se. I haven't heard of anybody else. Okay. So I think that, like, to add a little bit more context, but you guys let me know what you guys think. Last Ronin, thank you so much for gifting. Oh my God, Last Ronin, shout out to you. Hey, for those in the chat, I have to tell you guys something. Last Ronin's birthday is mañana. Happy birthday, Last Ronin. Happy birthday. And make sure you guys drop some cakes and some hearts for Last Ronin. Thank you for gifting. Yes, Last Ronin, you weren't going to run away without me saying happy birthday to you. Gene Deal said last night Diddy turned a 5-year plea deal with all that evidence. Anthony, in more than one occasion, I've heard that Diddy turned deals down, plea deals. So he's got the dream team of lawyers up there. I don't understand what is going on. Like, I hope I mean, if I spend that much, I don't know what the estimate is. I think I heard somebody say 8 to 9 million already in just the attorneys itself. He just added somebody new, Jonathan Bach out of the Shapiro law firm. Okay. And we got to talk about Mr. Bach here in a minute. But okay, let's talk about a couple things before we really get to the meat and potatoes of things. Okay. So there was this lawsuit, this civil lawsuit that was filed. You guys remember Fonzworth, the guy with the umbrella? If you've been following, I guess he worked for Diddy or something. I don't know every employee that worked for Diddy, but he's the one that walks around with the umbrella. The Mary Poppins personality, I guess. I don't know if there's a reason why he walks around with the umbrella. Maybe it's the aesthetic. I'm not really sure. But if you guys know, let me know in the chat. You remember the Fonz? Okay, Fonzworth is the guy, right? So he was mentioned in this lawsuit, all right? Now, to be quite honest, I have not seen the lawsuit myself. But yeah, whatever. I wonder what happened to him. All right, Timmy Lynn, you know what I'm talking about, right? We were just like, yeah, there's a new lawsuit and there's this guy. And it's mentioned that this guy is one of Diddy's associate or whatever. Well, Diddy Docket, shout out to Diddy Docket, but Diddy Docket mentioned this. In the matter of Pittman versus Combs, Sean Combs and Fonzworth Bentley has been sued by a Georgia talent scout alleging R of himself and 2 other minor females in connection with the 2003 Sean John fashion show in Lenox Square Mall. So it's a little bit of the lawsuit there. You said Farmsworth, or is it Fonzworth? With the Z, Cal on Earth. Shout out to you, Cal on Earth. You said he married children. He has a very private life. Okay. Well, so there's this lawsuit, okay, that's been filed. And apparently the guy that filed it, the plaintiff is Randy Dwayne Pittman, okay? And in this civil lawsuit, now he filed it I want to say on the 23rd. We're mid-trial here, and people are filing lawsuits. I mean, they can. That's their right, right? So this is a civil action for damages arising from violent RSA, drugging and battering of Mr. Pittman and 2 minor females on May 23rd, 2003 at a hotel in Atlanta, Georgia. Okay. The assaults were perpetrated by defendants Sean Combs and Derek Watkins following a Sean John promotional fashion. Now, I believe he filed this lawsuit for himself. What is it? Pro per? I think that's what it's called when you file on your own. And the factual backgrounds are that I guess he was Mr. Pittman was performing his duties at a talent scout and options talent at Lenox Square Mall in Atlanta, Georgia back in 2003. And it was a fashion show. Now, here's the deal. Before we really get into the issues, this guy is, I guess you can consider him a vexatious litigant. And for those that don't know what a vexatious litigant, pro se, well, there's pro se and then there's pro per. I guess it depends on the, like where you're from. Thank you. So, what was I going to say? Morris, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships, my love. Thank you. Put some hearts in the chat if you've been gifted. Thank you. This guy has a lot of lawsuits in his background. And I don't know, maybe you know what this reminds me of a little bit? This reminds me of what's his name? The guy from is it Minnesota? He's locked up. I could see his face. He sued Diddy and won on default, and then the court overturned it. He sued Diddy for I think it was well over $1 million point something, and then the court overturned it because its attorneys came over and said you guys did not, you didn't serve the guy. Okay, so thank you. I appreciate it, and thank you, Morris. Thank you. Welcome to those that are new. Shout out to everybody in the chat. So, for those that don't know, vexatious litigant is somebody who just frivolously, thank you, man, Kel, I need you, thank you. Cardillo Smith. Cardillo Smith has a lot of lawsuits in his background, right? So there's this thing where, like, a person, typically a court has to label this person a vexatious litigant, which is somebody that's just filing lawsuits here, right to left, left to right, left to right. I mean, I have seen some of the lawsuits, they just get filed. I don't know. Like, people learn how to file lawsuits and they just start suing everybody and their mother. Um, a court typically has to label somebody a vexatious litigant, and depending on the state and the county and all that other stuff, to, yeah, like sue happy. Well, the guy that filed this lawsuit that mentioned Fonzworth, is, I guess, has a lot of lawsuits. Okay, like a lot of lawsuits and a lot of states. I'm talking about, he's probably got all 50 states: Texas, Alabama, Georgia. Let me see if I can make this smaller. Let's see. California. Look at this. This is all Mr. Randy Pittman. And I'm sure, I don't know. That it just this is always a red flag to me. In my opinion, when somebody just sues for the hell of it. I'm sure we can look into this, and, like, he's suing the United States Department of Justice, of course, the city, the United States of America, a lot of people. Hell, let me shut up, because he might sue me too. You never know. He's suing IKEA. I mean, he's suing everybody. That's a lot of lawsuits. But I don't necessarily know if I mean, again, the court is the one that labels somebody a vexatious litigant, okay, or a person. So I don't want to make that, what's the word? I'm not going to make that determination. So there's that. That's the Fonzworth lawsuit. For those that are kind of curious, now hold up, let me check mark here. Jonathan Oddi. Let's talk about Jonathan Oddi real quick. Wow. Jonathan Oddi, who, for those that don't know, I didn't catch this, and I'm glad that Pina Aaliyah caught this on Twitter. Did you guys know, this is what's being reported? Again, this is page 6, so take it for what it's worth. Page 6 can be, I don't know how accurate it is, but apparently sometime in October. Okay, hold up. Jonathan Oddi is the escort that basically went on a shooting rampage at the Trump Hotel. Okay. He did a little interrogation, and it was filmed. And in that interrogation in 2019, he name dropped Cassie, and he name dropped Diddy, and being part of, like, parties, okay, with them, and being paid money. His wife, at the time, later came out and said that he had signed an NDA for Diddy and had been paid, like, over in the millions, like 6 million, I think, right? Something to that effect. Okay. Well, page 6 dropped this and basically said that the escort, and we're going to call him an escort because that's what Jonathan Oddi was at the time. He basically, he's given interviews recently, right? I didn't know that he talked to prosecutors. But sources confirmed that the man ultimately ended up telling his story to federal prosecutors and recently testified before the grand jury. I didn't know that Oddi had testified before the grand jury. A lot of us were trying to figure out, like, what's going on with Jonathan Oddi. Well, it turns out, and this is like I'm not saying that this is a new article. This is a pretty old article too. I want to say, like, last year. So he agreed. Diddy agreed to pay more than $6 million to a male S worker who claimed he was used as an S slave. Okay. This is what they're saying, is that he actually testified. Now, I don't have any receipts. I had never heard any other source say this, but page 6. So take it for what it's worth, because page 6 is like, you don't even know what to expect with them. You know what I mean? You said Oddi is believed to be taking the stand. Yep, he settled for $5 million in his story. $6 million, Anthony, I think that's what they said. And there's a copy of the NDA out there. But here's the deal, y'all, because you do have cases like this is what you have to kind of weigh in my opinion. Like you have some of the civil lawsuits, like only 2 that have been mentioned, and then you have some of them that like have not been mentioned here. And you would think something with minors would have been a thing. This would have been like something that people would have said, this is what's happening. Yes. Oh, Kel said that he said he was paid $5 million because he ended up with an STI that he could not get rid of. Oh my God. I saw John when he was first caught at the Trump Tower. And you know what's so crazy? I'm gonna say something. All right. It's too early for the gavel, okay? But I gotta say something. You know what the question that people aren't asking themselves when it comes to Jonathan Oddi? The day of the shooting at the Trump Tower, where was Cassie and Diddy? Something must have triggered this man to go and say, I'm going to shoot up this tower. After making a lot of purchases of properties, the morning of the shooting, they interviewed the neighbors. And the neighbors said everything was fine. So what happened? Where was Cassie? Where was Diddy the morning of the shooting? What triggered this man? I asked that question and somebody said, oh my God, I never really thought about that. I said, y'all, I've been thinking about that. I said, this is weird because yes, I know that he's got like mental health disorders. People say, well, it says this. I think, and he self said that he has some type of disorders or whatever. And that could very well be the case, but something triggered it. Was it drugs? Potentially. I don't know. But it made you wonder like, well, where were these individuals at? It wasn't that long between the time that he got this payment to when he went to go shoot up the Trump Tower. I've always had that question. So if you guys hear somebody talking about that, ask that question. Where was Diddy and where was Cassie the day that this shooting at the Trump Tower thingy, I don't know what, the hotel in Miami happened? Just ask. That's the question that I have. I don't know. It's always something that's been on the back of my mind. I don't know. And not to say that they have anything to do with it, but I do wonder about it. Was that shortly after a freak off? Did something happen before? What happened? I think so too. For Sean, I think so too. I think that he probably knows a lot of great deal. Okay. Let's talk about Don Richard real quick. Oh man. Don Richard. Did you guys hear about what Quay from Day 26 said? So Quay from Day 26 becomes emotional while sharing shocking allegations involving ex-girlfriend Dawn Richard. Dawn Richard, again, her lawsuit, she went and she testified. Some people, I did the video where I read the transcripts. And some people, I don't know if people were just confused about the fact that I said she was discredited on the stand by the defense. I'm not. I don't think that that's a lie. Somebody said you need to reread those transcripts because she wasn't discredited. Ma'am, sir, whatever, behind the account. She was discredited. There were inconsistencies in her story. It doesn't mean it didn't necessarily happen. It just didn't happen in the way in which she's telling it. She might have been nervous. There were some parts in her testimony where she didn't understand the question, and that's not really fair. That could make anybody nervous. I give you that. But as far as a juror goes, if I'm a juror and I'm sitting there, I'm going to be like, so was she hit with the pan? Was she not hit with the pan? Did she hit the wall? Did he hit the pan with the so the people were upset and that I made this comment. I said, guys, there's a reason why something didn't go here. Now, I believe and I agree that sometimes memories can trump different things and it takes people a while to kind of remember things. 1000% agree with that. But the one time that she testified on that stand, and that's why I thought the transcripts were so important. Make sure you watch that video. I dropped it yesterday. Watch it on the defense side. The lady was discredited. It's unfortunate because I felt like, well, Westmoreland she did go ham on her and really just went after her on certain things, but that's what she's supposed to do. She's a defense attorney, right? What I don't know, and I still don't understand, is Did she see Cassie get hit by a frying pan or a frying skillet? And none of you guys in the chat can even answer that for me because it's unclear at the end of the day. Exactly. See, Cheeks, thank you. They asked her to read her statement that she made prior. It wasn't like they were trying to trump her up, but I do believe that she didn't understand the questions, and that's fine. It could be maybe a level of, because that happens, you know what I mean? Like that does happen. Maybe a level of understanding and being nervous. So the people, the mans and the sirs and the people behind there are like, wow, you got this wrong. I'm sorry. I didn't get it wrong. That's what the transcript says. Okay. And reread it. Go listen to the video again. I, I just have to tell you, that's what it was. Yeah, it was thrown or something happened, baby K, but I don't know. And I wasn't there. But I couldn't even, I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell which one it was. Honestly, I came out of there just thinking like, was it swung? Was it thrown? Did she see it? Did she not see it? And then what even discredited her further, and this could very well be, if she's saying, and I think that this is a valid point, because some people feel some type of way about this, how do you reach out or how do you go back to a person asking for work after the conditions that you were put in? That's the question that people had that didn't sit very well with people. And I understand that. And I thought you said, okay. And then here's the other part too. How do you forget, or how do you not know the demands that your attorneys are making? How do you forget that your attorney is asking for 20 million? How did she doesn't remember. She doesn't remember the amount. 20 million? You can't, I'm sorry. And the attorney was sitting in the courtroom, what the hell, Lisa Bloom? That's her attorney. Her attorney's right there with her. How do you forget that you told your attorney, Lisa Bloom, to send a demand letter to Diddy for 20 million? All of that she didn't remember. So ask it. Like I said, I'm not discrediting her. It's she did that to herself, and that's what the transcript said. Yes, I would agree with you on that one. She just wasn't ready, and I think it would have helped her to have had somebody help her with that, but yeah. That's a good point. Maybe the amount changed a few times and she just didn't remember what amount, whatever was finally sent out to her. I don't know, but that's just my thought on that. Okay. No, they weren't filed at the same time. They weren't. It was Cassie's, and then it was Dawn's. All right, so Day 26, Quay has made some serious allegations involving his ex-girlfriend, Dawn Richard. So now she has, I guess the ex made some allegations against her, excuse me. And now while recalling an encounter with Diddy, the singer whose real name is Quanell Mosley appeared on Aubrey O'Day's podcast this week, detailing his experience with the Bad Boy Record founder. But in doing so, Quay was overcome with emotion as he opened up on a particular experience he deemed a sacrifice. Here's the lowdown. Okay, so on Friday, May 23rd, Quay sat down with Aubrey for a real deal conversation on the podcast, covering the Diddy trial. Excuse me. So with Diddy currently tangled up in this RICO case, Aubrey, who's been vocal about her bad boy experience, brought Quay on to share his story, given his time working under Diddy. Quay took us back to a studio session in New York around 2010 when Diddy was crafting his last Train to Paris album with Diddy Dirty Money, Dawn's Diddy Dirty Money, and Kalina Harper. Quay was dating Dawn at the time, and they were always together, so it wasn't unusual for them to be in the studio. Then Diddy, who was visibly high, according to Quay, invited them to stay at the Hamptons mansion. Felt very weird because this energy just felt so weird. This is what Quay said. It was friendly high, a friendly invitation to something. When Aubrey asked if Diddy ever been that way with him, Quay was firm. No, he's never invited us into his house. So Quay said that the group sped from New York studio to the Hamptons while they were late for something. Once they pulled to Diddy's mansion, things escalated. According to Quay, Dawn handed him a red ecstasy pill, allegedly on Diddy's order. I took it because I was about to get freaky with my girlfriend. We tried ecstasy before, Quay explained. I trusted her, and that's what it was. So I took it immediately. And she had one too. He gave her two. 20 minutes later, Quay said he blacked out. When he regained consciousness, he was in the bedroom of Diddy's twins. Oh my God, is it Diddy's twins? Let me skip over the names because I don't want to get, I think it's Delia and Jesse Combs. I forgot how to say the other ones. Surrounded by people laughing, recording. I began screaming as soon as I regained consciousness, and his voice breaking. It felt sacrificial. That's what I meant when I said I felt like they were trying to hurt me or Diddy was just trying to sacrifice me. Lord have mercy. Quay also clapped back at Boozy's shade. Okay, I hate Boozy. I don't like Boozy. Like Boozy and his son doing the most. So yeah. Kalina is being very quiet. I think Kalina is scared. So this is what Quay said on Aubrey O'Day's podcast. That's what was said. I guess I'd like to know what you guys think about that. His name is just pronounced Q. Thank you. Q. Thank you. Appreciate it. I have never heard of anyone ever blacking out on ecstasy. I hope you're being sarcastic. Although the story about Dawn seems believable, I would be careful being on the day 26 is probably making a living off of interviews. I don't know. So she's also being exposed, but I don't know. How much does he remember? Let me know. What do you guys think? And thank you, Skull. I appreciate you. Never blacked out, and I never did E every weekend for a year in 2001. Oh, you want to know from what is her name? She's also being mentioned. I wonder if she's a witness too. Guys, drop it in the chat. I know some of you guys know the name. I forgot her name. It's who Dawn was trying to get a hold of. Man, my throat. What do you think, baby K? So, I mean, he's kind of putting her in there. What is Dawn going to say about this? Does she remember this? I don't know. She should have an opportunity to respond to that. I mean, sounds like she herself had been through some stuff. I have read Dawn's lawsuit here on this channel, and it's very, like one part I remember specifically because she got locked in the car. I think it was Harv Pierre who instructed her to be in this car, and this car didn't have Gibson. Thank you. Lorianne Gibson. That's who it is. Oh my God. Thank you, Abraham. This car didn't have handles out. So they put her in this car and it was like cold outside. She didn't have a phone. And her dad had to come in here and confront Harv Pierre and a bunch of people. And you know what's so interesting? Like, I'm noticing a theme here too. Like, Dawn's dad had to intervene. Cassie's mom had to intervene at some point when she was seeing it. But here's the question that I have. She still continued with Diddy even years after. So I'm sure that this was conflicting for Regina Ventura as well, right? Like, to know that your daughter, there's this email being sent out where things are getting leaked out. And then what? You're having to take a bank loan? Agnifilo didn't even push back on that. Agnifilo didn't even say anything. Wow. You said one of my friends was on the day 26 making the band, and I'm now glad he didn't make the band. He was the guy Diddy said to take someone's bed. Really? See, and I think the only time I watched Making the Band was I can't remember what season it was. It's been that long. I don't know, man. I don't know. And let me know what you guys think in the comments about this news. And Q he's in his right to make a statement. I mean, it is what it is. I'm sure things happened. Not everything was filmed, or if it was just not. It was just not. Okay. So last night, you guys ready for this? Y'all remember this doctor right here? The lawyers are in the trial are working very, very hard to strike her. Okay. Now, if you were watching the coverage with us or at BJ's or wherever, how many times did they do sidebars on this lady? How many sidebars were there? Y'all remember it? So this lady, I want to say, came in. Let me look. I have the date. 5/21 was 5/21, which was Wednesday. This lady right here had so many sidebars. Every other thing that she was saying was a sidebar. Okay. Well, I said I got to get the transcripts and I got to figure out what's going on, because the defense is filing like motions as we speak in the middle of the night. While we were watching this, we were having sidebar drinks. Okay. We were like, all right, take a drink. Everybody, every time they say sidebar, we taking a drink or something. Okay. Thank you so much, Luigi, for the $4.99. X can make you pass out, dehydration, overheating, mental exhaustion. Back in the day, things were more pure, aka not cut as much. Tinkle, tinkle, tinkle. Luigi, thank you so much for this $4.99. Y'all, thank you so much for supporting the channel. Thank you guys. We still have so many transcripts to get. So if you guys are able to support, I really appreciate it, because we're going to see this whole thing through. We really are. Okay. So they had so many sidebars on this. Well, let me tell you what happened. We're going to get into the transcripts. This lady right here, for those that follow the Johnny Depp trial, this was the expert that they brought in. Okay. The lady, people do not like this lady. This is old. This petition is old. Remove Dr. Hughes from psychological organizations, change.org. This was around the Johnny Depp trial. Okay. And fans were starting petitions to get her removed. There's so many petitions out there on this lady 3 years ago. Well, the government hired this lady right here for basically as an expert blind witness. Okay. So I'm like, all right, let's get into the transcripts about how many times did the government, and we're going to do a sidebar here because we have it all queued up right here, my friends. Okay. Y'all ready for this? Now, if I start doing transcript read, I cannot look at the chat. So if you guys super chat and everything, I'll acknowledge it afterwards, because I do get lost on this. It's a lot. Okay. So early in the morning on May 21st. Okay. They were in cross-examination of another witness. All right. I believe they were still working on Gannon. So early in that May 21st morning, they all got together and the attorneys were like, all right, Your Honor, like, we have to talk to you about this expert blind witness by the name of Dr. Hughes. Already the prosecutors are trying to basically, convince the court that this is an expert, that this expert knows nothing about this case, doesn't know the subjects, and she is blind as a bat. Are bats blind? I'm pretty sure they're blind. Hope I'm making that comparison correctly. She's as blind as a bat. Okay. So the court and the prosecution, they're talking. And then, my friends, enter who else? Page 7. Is it page 7? Hold up. Page 3. Enter Jonathan Bach from Shapiro Law Firm. New attorney comes in, Jonathan Bach. Jonathan Bach is going to handle Dr. Dawn Hughes. And so immediately Jonathan Bach is like telling the court, nice to meet you, Judge. Secondly, I can tell that the court's comments from the government's remarks that the issues are well known to the court and they seem to be addressed. The devil will be in the details as it pertains to her testimony, to her blind witness expert testimony. Okay. We are, of course, concerned about coercive control coming into play. They wanted to make sure that whatever opinions Dr. Bach had about coercive control were objected, deleted, removed, strike whatever the hell was said on that statement. I mean, literally, the lady is trying to establish herself as an expert in the field, and every other statement, objection, objection. Oh, we're going to see it, okay? We're going to see it. Bach further says, we are, of course, concerned that coercive control coming back into play. We're also concerned about the parading of a kind of parade of horrible of abuses in front of jury to suggest that there's a larger societal problem here that might not be related to this case. I think, Your Honor, when you ruled and said that Ms. Hughes was not to expound at length about different types of abuses conducted as a precursor. That's in the transcripts. Okay, so I'm going to skip over and get to more relevant parts. All right, so that's page 7. And I want us to go through every time that Bach objected, okay? So we're going to go right to that right now. Hold up. It starts right at page 73. 73. This is when Dawn Hughes comes in because this is relevant. They just filed a letter last night to the court. So Dawn Hughes gets called into the court. She gets sworn. She's a, expert. Okay. We're going to go through this. She tells you her background. She's a clinical psychologist based on a study of human behavior on both normal and abnormal human behavior. She keeps going. She received a bachelor's of arts in psychology and she has a doctoral, yada, yada, yada. And, basically she's out in the field. She's been there for many years. Her training in trauma. It's very unique because she's done all the trainings in trauma. All the trainings in trauma she has done. Did all the training. She knows it all. Okay. She worked at a program, and she's also worked with Veterans Affairs or Veterans Administration outpatient. And I'm just giving you guys a summary. She also did an internship at Yale University. Okay. And she keeps going and going and going. All right. I'm going to read when she answers and then the objection. Okay. So when she's giving her example, that entails people coming to my office for individual psychotherapy. Most of them, but not all, but a good majority of them have had some kind of violence or abuse in their lives, either having been sexually assaulted, having been a victim. And that's when Bach says, objection, the court overrules. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Keep going, keep going, keep going. She's still giving us her background. And then she gets asked, Dr. Hughes, what, if any, areas do you specialize in? I specialize in interpersonal violence and traumatic stress. What is interpersonal violence? So interpersonal violence, objection. Okay, let's keep going. Court sustains, yada, yada, yada. Okay. So the court says, I think you can qualify the witness as an expert, and then let's get into the actual opinions. Bach is like, this is not an expert. We don't want to qualify her. They're still going. Okay, let's keep going. The government is still asking her questions about her profession, her opinions about certain things. Okay. Question. Have you ever not been qualified as an expert? She answers. Hughes answers, no. And here she continues. Your Honor, at this time, we offer Dr. Hughes as an expert in clinical and forensic psychology with specializations in trauma and traumatic stress. Bach, no objection. The only time, right? Keep going. Dr. Hughes, are you aware of press and news reporting relating to the allegations in this case? On a very brief level, yes, she answers. Can you describe what you're aware of? Bach, objection, sustain. Okay, let's keep going. Dr. Hughes, why have you not assessed any victims? Why have you not assessed any victims or witnesses in this case? Because it's my understanding that under the law, I am not permitted to. Objection, sustain. Let's keep going. Okay, they have a sidebar. All right, hold up now. How are y'all doing? How are y'all doing? I'm just giving you guys a brief overview. Uh, so many objections. They objected to that lady a lot. Okay. Let's keep going. Okay. Because I want to get right to cross-examination when they're crossing her, right? Sidebar. Miss Steiner is for the government. Your Honor, the reason I elicited the question is because it is my understanding that we had discussed in this court previously, and given the expected testimony of someone like Dr. Barty, what was the question? What's her understanding about why she can't interview any of the witnesses or victims in this case? The court says she cannot testify about that. I thought I was pretty clear when it was this issue came up that she can't testify about it, nor can Dr. Barty address that issue. I misunderstood, Your Honor. Okay, so the government misunderstood. Let's keep going. All right. She gets asked, you testified a moment ago, Dr. Hughes, that you have not interviewed any witnesses or victims in the case. Is that right? That's correct. And government asked, and how, if at all, will that affect your ability to testify regarding any particular witness or victim? Bach. Objection. Okay, they sustain it. All right, let's keep going. Here we go. She gets asked, Dr. Hughes, you referred earlier a term domestic violence. Can you very briefly define what you're referring to? And she answers, sure, domestic violence is commonly defined as a pattern of behavior that functions to instill fear and control. It's using multiple abusive behaviors, such as objection to the subject, sustain. Can we move on? Okay, they keep going. I'm going to every objection. All right, hold up. Question for Dr. Hughes. Dr. Hughes, turning to our first topic of why victims stay in relationships, based on your clinical experience and review of the academic literature, do victims at times remain in abusive relationships? And she responds, yes, they do. And it's important to understand that they don't remain in the relationships because they are unconcerned about the violence. They don't remain because they want to be abused. No victim wants to be abused, and anyone can be abused. Strong people, people who have vulnerabilities, smart people, people who have other difficulties and deficiencies. And we know that domestic violence crosses races, ethnicities, sex, and gender. Bach objects. Objection. And then the court's like, just objection? Then I'll ask you, what grounds? What are the grounds briefly? Stay within the four corners of the question. The court says that's fair. Okay. So the court tells Dr. Hughes, if you have a direct question, just give a direct answer, and Ms. Steiner will follow up if need to. Okay. Yes, Your Honor. All right. Let's keep going because the objections continue. All right. Question. And the first area of study, Dr. Hughes, that you just mentioned is that you said that there's a combination of types of abuse, that it's not just about hitting. Can you briefly explain what you mean when you say it's not just about hitting? She responds, right, because it's about the power and control the abusers have over the victim. And the hitting is just one tool that the abusers use. The abuser uses other tools, such as the psychological abuse. Objection. Okay, the court says, let's move on. All right. This is how we're flying on this. So then she's asked, Dr. Hughes, you also mentioned earlier that psychological abuse can be a factor. How does psychological abuse cause a victim to remain in a relationship? So psychological abuse is about threatening future violence and about controlling your victim. So when you're doing things that the abuser doesn't want to do, there's a negative consequence for that. That could be a physical violent act, or it can be other acts. So the physical psychological violence looks like intimidation, like threats, like throwing things, like telling people you were where you can and can't go and what to do. Objection. All right, the court tells the witness, okay, hold on for a moment. Dr. Hughes, is it the same objection? Bach responds, same objection as the court ruling. I'm going to strike the witness last answer. So even this blind expert, I want to give you guys an overview of how even the blind expert, supposedly not reading, and I'm going to say supposedly because I don't know, I wasn't there. She says she don't know anything about this case. She says she never did that. No. She still gets, like, her answers still get a strike. Okay, just to give you guys an idea of what this looks like. Okay. Dr. Hughes says, she gets asked, I want to make sure we all understand what you mean when you refer to psychological abuse. So, very briefly and concisely, can you explain what that includes? Objection by Bach. So, Bach is objecting to the question from the government. Okay, sustain, let's move on. She answers, yes, because, wait, the question is, you testify that sexual abuse can also cause a victim to remain in a relationship. How does that work? Yes, because sexual abuse is inherently damaging. It's a very private harm, and it's a very much deliberates a person's psychological functioning. Sexual abuse, or SA, is one of the highest types of traumatic stressors, and we know can result in PTSD, and is often met with a high degree of psychological distress. So, if you're in significant psychological distress in the relationship, you're walking around injured and harmed. It's important to understand the SA doesn't only mean objection. Another objection. Okay. The court says, I think the witness answered the question that was asked. Okay. So they keep going. How does a victim's financial dependence on an abuser affect their ability to leave? So that's very important. We can say we need psychological resources to leave. Objection. Court says what grounds? Bach says court's ruling. It's overruled. Okay. This right here, I highlighted this whole paragraph right here because this right here, my friends, made us jump. Okay. This made us jump. Now, let me change my background real quick. For those that don't know who I'm talking about, hold up. Here. Dr. Bach is in the background. I can't minimize this yet because I'm still reading it, but I will at some point. Oh my goodness. Thank you for the $4.99 new desk fund because Rabbit to be beating the fuck out of her gavel. I might need you ain't never lied. This gavel's gonna draw a hole to the desk. You're right. You're right. Miramari, thank you for being a member for 3 months. Shout out to you, Miramari. Thank you. Okay. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Make sure you guys are hitting that like button. Good morning. Good morning. For those that are coming through, I see Sylvia and everybody coming through, guys. Thank you. So let's read this big old highlighted paragraph, okay? So when I was live talking about this, the question that she got asked, how does a victim's financial dependence on an abuser affect their ability to leave? She tries to answer, and then she, Bach objects. She gets to answer. So you need the psychological resources to leave, but you also need the tangible resources to leave. What we see in a lot of these situations of DV, there's a lot of financial control. So if your abuser controls the money for you, housing, transportation, healthcare, childcare, and just general sorts of expenses of living, how are you to leave if you don't have access to those tangible resources? And sometimes the financial control is about sabotaging the victim's ability to have independence, taking away her laptop. We lost our shit when she said laptop because we were reading it through Twitter. This is the context of that. Taking away her laptop, and Bach jumps in. Objection. Court says sustain. Okay. Let's keep going. While we're reading another objection. So, and what obstacles were present for a victim at the time that they're attempting to leave the relationship? So at times they're attempting to leave. That is usually met with intense fear on the victim. They are afraid of the retaliation. They may have been with a partner who has abused them, who has hurt them, who has shown them that they're willing to use serious forms of violence against them. And they're afraid of more retaliation and more danger. And that is not unwarranted. We know from our very own robust objection. Okay. He's still objecting. More objections. Okay. Let me move on because I want us to get to cross. Okay. Just giving you guys idea. There's a good 25 objections total in that when she was cross-examined. So when we were hearing this, well, it was an objection for everything. And then they had the sidebars. Now I'm trying to get to the sidebars so we can move on. Sidebar in page 128. Here we go. So finally, finally, Dawn Hughes gets done with her testimony. Here comes a cross-examination, but before they get to that, they have a sidebar. Yes. Yeah, Deborah, that Diddy would take all her stuff. So immediately, so when we heard this, that's why we were like, well, are you sure the lady doesn't know about this case? Because she's talking about taking away her devices. Immediately, that was the biggest red flag. So yeah, that's where we were coming from too. Thank you, Deborah. What do you guys think so far? So this is Bach's first day, and he's coming swinging. I mean, I'm sure he's well aware of the case, like not his first day, but like he just made an appearance in court. Okay. So he's there to kind of annihilate anybody who's an expert. All right. In this. I think this is important to kind of know how she's talking, especially if you've seen her. She was involved in Johnny Depp. She was involved in Weinstein. She's involved in Weinstein too. Yes, Amanda. You said you just woke up? Yes. So we're gonna read that cross-examination, but let's get into the sidebar. This is where we get nosy, okay? This is where we get nosy. Now let me drink. Okay. Are you like, yeah, we're gonna get nosy, okay? This is where we learn how the professionals are thinking, these lawyers, okay? So they have a sidebar after the government is done doing their cross, okay? Miss Shapiro, who by the way is Jonathan Bach's wife, okay? They're in the same firm. Your Honor, the defense moves to strike the direct testimony as both Rule 702 and 403 for many reasons in our motions in Limelight. In particular, the testimony on coping strategies, why people don't leave relationships, essentially was a backdoor way of getting in much of information in the coercive control discussion that Your Honor included. We tried to object as best as we could. They objected 25 times. But she used the word control multiple times. She referred to many of the supposed control strategies in the disclosure in the guise of the testimony about the coping strategies. In addition, even the testimony about delay memory, I think it's junk science. It was virtually any memory can be explained. Her testimony essentially was an effort to mirror some of and bolster the credibility of Miss Ventura in an inappropriate way. So I just want to renew that motion before we move to cross-examination. The court directs to the government. Ms. Steiner, here comes the government. Your Honor, I think the defense very robustly objected. Your Honor was policing the issues very carefully. I think we're well within the scope of Your Honor's order and the notice, specifically with respects to coping strategies. The notice was specifically very broad. It says that Dr. Hughes will speak about a broad range of defense mechanisms and coping strategies. And as she did, she explained that there's multitude of coping strategies that are necessary, that can be utilized at different points in this time, depending on what the victim is encountering. Similarly, with memory, I'm not quite sure what the objection is here. I think she hewed very closely to the notice about talking about the effects of PTSD, how trauma affects memory, and how memory can subsequently be recalled through cues and triggers. Okay, Ms. Shapiro for the defense speaks. With respects to memory, if I could just respond to that. My point is she strayed from the disclosure. It's that the substance of the testimony was all over the map. And we had argued earlier that this is some sort of amounts to junk science, because she basically almost whatever the particular circumstances of an alleged victim recalls would be explained by that testimony. That's my point. Just to be clear, the court speaks. Understood. As to the first basis for the application involving the attempts to get in the back door on coercive control, I think that based based on Mr. Bach's objection and the constant sustaining of objections and requesting Ms. Steiner to move forward, that we avoid all these issues to the extent that any issue arose. As to the issues concerning the basis under Rule 702 for her testimony that was offered, I think I need to see the cross-examination, because as it was presented, there was an initial specification with witness qualifications and the indication that she was basing her opinions in both literature and then her clinical practice. When she was testifying, she offered testimony. Sometimes she did indicate that she was basing her testimony on literature and on her clinical practice. I agree that sometimes she offered testimony without stating the basis. Ooh, right here, y'all. Right here. This is so important right here. Hold up. When the judge says, I think that, hold up. I agree that sometimes she offered testimony without stating the basis. I think that under the preponderance standard rule 702, you can infer that's based on her clinical experience or literature. I think some of the issues are going to be teased out in cross-examination. So I'll reserve my application for now. Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor. All right, they thanked each other. Okay, cross-examination happens. So here's my question, all right, before we start with cross. Just like the judge said, first of all, I find it to be offensive that she calls the defense would say that any of this is junk science. It's not junk science if it's going to fit your narrative, right? Basically, that's what they're putting that out there, right? I do feel like some of Dr. Hughes' testimony is a bit without merit. She does make generalized statements, but also, to be fair, she was hired as a blind expert witness, so she's going to make generalized statements, right? I'll give her that. Although a lot of people aren't a fan of her, I really don't know the lady, but she does make a lot of generalizations, and I think that, maybe had she read the case, I don't know if that would have worked in her favor. I'm not really sure. I think the government did wrong in hiring this lady, and I say this because there's already by a lot of people in the public a perception of her that she is this is what's been said, that she's very much man-hating. That's what, and then there's some people that feel like she's very victim focused, but some people feel like, if you don't have experience in treating offenders or getting your feet wet on that side, how can you be unbiased about everything? You're only giving one side of the statement. Keep that in mind. I don't know. I'm just letting you know. I do feel like some of the statements were a little bit generalized, but that's just my opinion. Okay. Look at this. She came across very biased. They should have never brought her in for $600 an hour and $6,000 a day. They would have said she was biased regardless. That's very true. But there is a way. I think for me, it's like there's a way to do this. And I don't know if she was it. They should have just hired somebody else. And then people would have been like, okay, like, we can weigh this in. You know what I mean? But yeah. Y'all said very biased. Yeah. Yeah. Remember, she did say that. We're going to get right into that, Tanya. You're right. She did say that. She already had a bad rep. She did. That's why I was like, why'd they hire her? There's so many experts out there. They should have just brought somebody else in. Why her? I don't know. She must have a contract with the government. That's why. She probably does. It does happen. Anyways, let's get it together. So, cross-examination. So, Jonathan Bach is going to do the cross-examination. This is going to be interesting. Let's get it together. I haven't read all of this. I'm going to react with it with you guys. Dr. Hughes, you've been a psychologist for nearly 30 years, correct? I believe so. I think I was licensed in 1997. And you have a private independent practice, correct? So people come to you for counseling and therapy, correct? And you see them at an office. Yes, I do. You sit down with them face to face. Yes, I do. And you talk with them, right? Yes, I do. And you talk with them at length, right? Yes. And when the people come, and when the people that come to you meet with you, you listen very carefully to what they say, right? Yes. And you pay attention to detail? Yes. And not just to what they're telling you about their lives, but you observe the manner in which they've expressed themselves, correct? Yes. In other words, you're trained as a psychologist to look at someone's cognitive style, among other things, yes. The way their emotional effect registers, correct? Yes. They can be red scent and shy, right? Yes. They can be verbose and talk actively, correct? Yes. And when you do your work, you pay attention to those types of details, correct? Yes. And you pay attention to the different things that they tell you about their lives, correct? Yes. And you're trained to do that because any detail they convey to you can be important, correct? I don't know if I would say any detail can be important. You're trying to ascertain what facts are and which aren't. Well, not every detail is important, but you're listening carefully because a detail could be important, correct? Sure. And people are complicated. Yes, they are. You laugh. But people don't fit into boxes. Is that fair? Well, we have a general category of how we understand people, general categories of psychiatric disorders, and that we do know, present in a certain way. Understood. But even with those categories, when someone comes to you for an analysis or a diagnosis, you have those categories in mind, but you listen to that particular individual and to what the particular individual has to say, correct? Yeah. I'm certainly not divorced from my education, training, and experience about certain other areas of study when I'm doing that, of course. Your education and experience taught you to listen carefully to individuals, correct? Correct. And you can't diagnose somebody without hearing what they have to say, correct? Correct. In your practice, you typically wouldn't treat somebody without sitting down with them, spending time with them, and listening very, very carefully to what they're telling you and the manner in which they are conveying it. Correct? Correct. When somebody comes to you, you have your education, you have your background, you have your categories. But when someone comes to you, you do, I think you said on direct, a comprehensive evaluation to understand what you're being presented with, correct? I do. Comprehensive evaluations means it's comprehensive. You look at a lot of things, correct? Correct. And each person presents his or her own way when they come to you, right? Correct. And you have to hear what each person has to say, correct? Sure. And right now, we're just talking about your private practice, right? Correct. And I think you used the words before. You used the words clinical practice, right? Yes. In other words, your office is kind of like a clinic in which you see and treat people, correct? It's not a clinic. It's a private office where I treat people in psychotherapy. You said, but you referred to that as your clinical practice, right? Because I'm conducting clinical work. I got it. And that's one kind of work that that you conduct. Yes. We just talked about that. What is another kind of work that you said you conduct that's called forensic work, correct? Correct. And that's something that you do as well, correct? That's correct. And that's different from your clinical practice. That's correct. Forensic work is when you're evaluating somebody in the context of a legal proceeding, correct? Correct. That's where you're evaluating someone, you're listening to them very carefully just because you want to treat them. You're listening to them carefully because courts and judges and lawyers might be reviewing what you have to say about the person, correct? That's not why I'm listening intently. I'm listening intently to really understand the person in front of me and what ails them and what the difficulties are. But you know that whatever conclusions you may or may not draw, whatever analysis you may conclude, that may be reviewed by the courts and lawyers, of course, in a forensic context, correct? Yes. So there you pay attention to details, correct? I pay attention to details because I want to do a comprehensive evaluation, and I know that the work is going to be looked at other people. When you do forensic work, as opposed to seeing a patient, say once or twice a week in your clinical practice, you take your investigation of the facts to the next level, correct? You have to explain what you mean. Sure, when you do forensic work, you don't just talk to someone who comes to see you for therapy, correct? Correct. You go to the other sources for information, correct? Correct. You want as many sources of information, as many data points as you can reasonably get a hold of, right? Depending on the relevance of the data, sure, of course. If something is irrelevant, you don't care about it, right? Correct. But if something is relevant, you care about it, right? Correct. And even if it contradicts what the person is telling you, you really want to know about that, right? Yes. And so, what you do in a forensic setting, and a bunch of your work is in forensic, correct? Correct. What you do in forensic work, you listen to what the person has to say, then you go and you look at other things to see how that pans out, correct? I think you're making it a little bit more simplistic. I just don't listen. I'm conducting a clinical interview, a semi-structured clinical interview, and administrating psychological tests. So it's not like I'm listening, like I would be listening with the psychotherapy patient. It's a different methodology. I don't disagree with what you said. I want to explore that a little more, so everyone understands here. So everybody understands where we are. You understand that when you're in a forensic setting, the person that you're evaluating may have certain motivations because of the legal proceedings that you wouldn't necessarily find in your ordinary clinical practice, of course. And you approach forensic evaluations with that possibility that someone might have certain motivations in mind, correct? Correct. And so when someone tells you something and offers it for a fact in forensic work, you approach that with some degree of healthy skepticism, correct? Correct. And you do some cross checking, correct? Correct. You do a deeper dive than you do in your ordinary clinical practice, correct? Correct. And you look at all kinds of sources of information when you do forensic work for courts and lawyers, correct? Correct. As we said, determine on their relevance. The ones that are irrelevant, you ignore, okay? And the ones that are relevant, you try to look at, correct? Yes. Sometimes you don't know if they are relevant until you look at them, correct? Correct. Among the things that you tend to look at when you do legal related work, you look at witness reports, correct? Correct. Police reports, correct? Correct. If someone has a medical record or a prior psychiatric or therapy record, you hope you could see those as well, right? Yes. You look at their educational background, correct? Yes. You mentioned veterans. If you were treating someone in the military, you look at their military background. Yes. So you would do what you would call your structured interview of a person, and then you would also look at documents and records and all this other information, correct? That's correct. Again, that's because you've been trained to pay attention to detail, correct? Trained to do a comprehensive forensic assessment. Yes. And that means looking at a lot of pieces of information, correct? Correct. It means looking at a lot of pieces of evidence, correct? Correct. You also mentioned a moment ago that I want to go back to this, something that you referred to as a psychological testing, correct? Yes. When you are talking about psychological testing, let's be clear. There's a certain standardized test that the discipline of psychology has developed over time, correct? Correct. And these tests are developed by experts in the field, correct? Correct. And they go through a validation process to make sure that they have decent diagnostic value, correct? To make sure they have reliability and validity. Yes, perfect. And those tests give you an opportunity to look at something that's reliable, kind of an objective measure, instead of just relying on what you're hearing from the person that you're sitting across from when you do your semi-structured interview, correct? Correct. Those tests can be very important data points in your comprehensive evaluation, correct? Correct. And again, years of training to enable you to do the kind of complex analytical work that this kind of psychological investigation typically requires. Correct? Correct. You've administered tests such as you've administered something called a personality assessment inventory, correct? Correct. You've administered a TSI test. What does that stand for? The trauma symptom inventory. And these are in your forensic practice. These are tests that you're quite familiar with, right? Correct. And these are tests that you've relied on. Correct? Correct. And you've relied on these because you're not relying just solely on your interactions with the individuals. Correct? Correct. But it's a way of analyzing and looking at the whole host of symptoms that individuals may have. Even with, excuse me, let me stop. Hold up. The question. And you rely on these because they're not relying just solely on your interaction with the individuals, correct? She answers, correct. But it's a way of analyzing and looking at the whole host of symptoms that individuals may have. Okay. Even with all your training, and it's impressive training and background, even with all that training, you rely on these tests developed by other people to guide your analysis, correct? I rely on multiple methods. What we say a forensic evaluation is a multi-method, multi-hypothesis driven model. So I'm relying on all of these methods to arrive at a conclusion because these things are complicated, right? I agree. Okay, let me stop right here so I can take a drink. Ooh, we. Hit the like button. Let me see where we're at in the likes before I continue. Oh, wow. All right. Can we get to at least 300 likes, please? And thank you. This is iced coffee, Kim. I got some iced coffee here. And I'm just chewing on ice. Hold up, y'all. If I never hear the words correct or objection ever again, I cannot. This is too many corrects. All right. Let's get it together. Let's do this, okay? This is a good attorney. Cheeks, I mean, he's doing what attorneys do. They're really questioning her and her background. I think that's something to be said about that. But what do you guys think so far? Let's see. Okay. Welcome everybody. Sustain. All right. And for those that are going to watch the replay, I'll make sure I put some timestamps on this because this is a lengthy video so far. Okay, back to questioning. You can't find a sentence in the literature that says this is how somebody is. You have to do all these multi-data point evaluations to get a sense of that, correct? To get a sense of an individual, yes. And when you do the testing and when you talk to the individual, you're familiar with the concept. I don't think that this was a method by the prosecutors. Excuse me, but you're familiar with the concept called malingering, right? I am. And malingering is a fancy way of saying that someone might be exaggerating or distorting the facts because of the circumstances of which they find themselves, right? Remember that term? We talked about it when we were live. Okay. That's not a correct definition. Why don't you give us a correct definition of malingering? Why don't you give us a correct definition? Malingering is just the fabricating of emotional or psychological symptoms. It's not related to the facts of their case. You talked about different emotional responses that people have to trauma, or you talked about a trauma bond. You talked about a number of things, but people can fabricate emotional responses, correct? They can. And notwithstanding with the pattern that you talked about in the literature, these tests can help you determine what's going on with the particular individual that you're looking at any given time, correct? You wouldn't take the test alone. You're looking for the confluence of the data points and clinical interview, the testing and the external data. You're looking at how it all holds together to render an opinion. And you have to look at everything, right? You have to look at all these different sources, the ones that are relevant. You have to look at them, and you have to see how they all hold together, correct? Correct. And that's part of doing a detailed fact intensive analysis, correct? Correct. You're familiar with something called let me withdraw that a number of tests that you use have something called built-in validity index, correct? Validity scales, yes. Validity scales. And what the validity scale is, because there is some people, even on forensic settings, even when someone like you is administering the test, that there are some people who try to fool the test, right? Yes. And the validity, what did you say it was? A validity scale. A validity scale is there to help you. Dr. Hughes, you decide whether the person you're evaluating is trying to fool the test or not, right? Correct? The validity scales are really to look at the response of the type of individual. The two tests that you mentioned also are used clinically, and we use them in a clinical practice as well. So it doesn't look at things like exaggeration, but also looks at things minimization, defensiveness, and not wanting to report symptoms. So we see that as well. Minimization is something, minimization is an understatement. Excuse me. Minimization is sometimes understated, something that you have done or that you're ashamed of, correct? Not that necessarily you're ashamed of, but that you don't want to address it, like talk about it, talk about before. So sometimes we see individuals who are minimizing their distress. Okay. The court interjects. Dr. Hughes, if you're asked a yes or no question, give a yes or no answer. And then we will have redirect after cross. Okay. A couple of more questions, and the court's looking at the defense. A couple of more questions, and then we are going to break for our lunch. Sure. The court says, or we can stop now. Mr. Bach, Lawyer Bach says, why don't we stop now? Because I don't have a good cliffhanger, and we'll have to take it up after lunch. The court says, fair enough. All right. So this is when they stop for lunch. Let me highlight this real quick. All right. Okay, so the jury's not present, and it looks like we have a little bit of a sidebar. Maybe. Dr. Hughes, we'll see you back here. Thank you. Anything for the witness? Let me see what the sidebar is about. Oh, it's about Kaplan. We're not talking about Kaplan right now. Okay. Oh, this is when George Kaplan becomes immunity George. So this is, they're in lunch, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Afternoon recess. Do we have anything to address before the jury comes in? Okay. Let me see. Because some of this is not always related to the person giving the testimony. Okay, here we go. That's Kaplan. Okay. And now we see. Thank you, Mr. Steiner. Can we get back to Dr. Hughes? Yes. Welcome, Dr. Hughes. Welcome back. Okay. The court, Dr. Hughes, understand you're still under oath. Yes, yes. Okay. Mr. Bach may proceeds. Okay, so they get back to lunch. All right. How's everybody doing? Let me take a bite out of ice. All right. Sorry, y'all. I have to take a break in between. And if we don't finish today, you said immunity idol is like survivor immunity George. If we don't, you guys know that I will upload a shorter version of it and it'll be just uploaded and stuff like that. Because I do have to take breaks for my throat. I don't want to lose my voice. And then I'm still recording. We have we have a lot more videos to record, but I'm going through this one because I think it's important, because I have to show you what they're submitting to get this lady striked. They don't like this lady. The defense doesn't. And I don't know, like, do you guys feel like, based on what she's saying, do you guys feel like she is a detriment to a certain degree? I don't know, man. I mean, I'm not there and I'm not in the defense, but are they her consideration and the things that they're saying about her? Do you guys feel like she is someone that is detrimental, I guess? Is that the word? Based on her experience? I mean, I feel like her stuff was so generalized. I don't know how much I could pay attention to. But let me know what you guys think in the chat. I think she's 50-70. Not 50-50, 50-70. Okay. Say more. All right. All right. So let me read a couple pages more. You think it makes the defense look desperate and scared? Oh, man. Dang. Could be. I mean, it could very well be the things that they just don't want, because I feel like them is like like every time they're always casting doubt to something. You said, I think that they're doing a good job at casting doubt. I think so too, honestly. Justly, thank you. I feel like they're doing actually a pretty good job at that. And it sucks because, like, I don't know if some of you guys don't know, but I have a master's in social work. I worked in government for 10 years, and then I have a bachelor's in criminology. So for me, it's like, I never want to see a clinician be in a situation like this. But she's also very much like, there's something else about her that I don't know. I can't even say it. I think the case has already been proven in many instances without her. Yeah, I don't like, even on the baby K, even on the they only need 2 out of the 8 counts for Diddy. So I'm not really sure. Poking holes at her, I just don't know. But the trial's not over. You think the defense is making their case? Oh my God. You said she kind of helps the Rico case, as boring as her testimony is. Well, let me ask you guys something. For those that watch the Johnny Depp trial, what did she do in the Johnny Depp trial that y'all didn't like her? Because there were people that did not like this lady in the Johnny Depp trial. So for those that watched it, I don't believe she was needed. Honestly, I don't. I agree. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Pika. For those that want to support, guys, we still have 6 more weeks of this, so we're gonna do our best to continue to get the transcripts. Because they like Johnny Depp. Really? You think that they support her because they like Johnny Depp? They wanted to get rid of that lady. They had petitions on this lady. I just think that she's not a good person to hire. I would have hired somebody else, but that's just me. And it's not like they don't. I mean, y'all taxpayers, $6,000 for this lady for one day in court. $6,000. Okay. Mm-hmm. You said very biased. Cut the corners. General assessments are not necessary in such an elaborate case. That's right. And I think the defense is like dragging this out of like, okay, we get it. We get it. We get it. You feel like this and this is what you're looking at. She's never treated men. So that was I think a red flag for me. Please clarify, what is her doctor's name? Her name is Dawn Hughes. Dr. Dawn Hughes. Mm-hmm. Yep. She didn't talk about nothing new. Why bring her? I don't think she did anything here, but okay. Let's get through some of this. I believe it goes all the way to 227. So for whatever reason, I need to take a break because my throat. I will take a break and I'll do a pre-recorded. So you guys keep an eye out for that one. Dawn Hughes, not Donna Hughes. Dawn, DAWN Hughes. Y'all gave her a different name. Oh my God, y'all are crazy. Okay. I think one thing to note, and if there's anything I could say about this, is professionals can also have bias. She could very well have a bias too. And that's what to me, she came out very biased because she needs to get that checked out. I don't know. Maybe she needs to expand her stuff. Okay, so they're back to questioning. Dr. Hughes, before the break, we were discussing your clinical practice. correct? Yes. Then we got to your forensic practice, correct? Yes. We talked about how in both of these practices, you listen carefully to the individual's pieces of information that you are gathering over time, correct? Yes. And you were talking about tests just before the break. Yes. And you relied on those tests because when you're doing forensic work, you want to get as much information, as many data points as you can, correct? Yes. In fact, when you do forensic work in the case, in a case specific way, the last thing that you want to do is be a blind to the fact, correct? Ooh, pay attention to this word. Be blind to the facts, correct? When I'm conducting an evaluation, sure, you want to live in those facts, correct? I don't know if I want to live in them, but I certainly review everything copiously as I can. You agree that a psychologist cannot give an opinion on the psychological characteristics of an individual when that psychologist has not assessed that person, correct? I mean, there is some controversy in the field about that. In our ethical code, some people we say can't diagnose, but sometimes as a forensic psychologist, if that individual is made unavailable, we can make some conclusions based on a record review. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Here it is. Let me highlight that. Dr. Hughes, you remember testifying in June 2019 across the Brooklyn Bridge in the Eastern District of New York in another matter? Not particularly, but yes, I know I testified. Let me ask you if you were asked this question and gave this answer. Sure. Question. Okay, we about to get on the juice. Okay. You agree that a psychologist such as yourself cannot give an opinion on the psychological characteristics of an individual when he or she has not assessed that person. That's generally a fair statement. Were you asked that question and did you give the answer? I don't have the transcripts. I'm assuming that you have it, and I did say that. I'm happy to share it with you. I think the answer is that the same as what I'm telling you. I think you testified on direct examination that you participated in an organization known as the American Psychological Association. Is that correct? That's correct. The APA. And you would agree that the American Psychological Association states that as a matter of policy, that a psychologist should not only render an opinion of an individual after an examination of the individual adequate to support the statements or conclusion, correct? And what are you reading from? Mr. Bach, okay, hold up. And what are you reading from? She's asking. Mr. Bach speaks. Let's Dr. Hughes see this. Can you put 3752-3, page 10? Okay, so exhibits are going up. Your Honor, the government speaks. Can we confirm that this is only for the parties and not the witnesses? Dr. Bach says only for the parties and the witnesses. Okay, question. Dr. Hughes, anytime I mention something that you draw on your memory and you don't remember it, let me know and I'll show you it to you as best as I can. Do we have 3752 page 10? Can we get that on the screen? Okay. Would you like me to repeat the question? She answers, yes. Yeah, I don't know what your question was. Court speaks. Let's take that document down. Can you ask the question? You would agree that the American Psychological Association, okay, the court speaks. Let's take that document down and then you can ask the question. Sure. Okay, now proceed. Thank you. All right. Dr. Hughes, you would agree that the American Psychological Association, which you are a part of, states that a psychologist should not only render an opinion of an individual after an examination of the individual's adequate to support the statement or conclusion. I agree with that. There are other guidelines, but that is part of what I agree with. In this case, we talk about your clinical practice. We talked about your forensic practice. Now let's talk about your work in this case. In this case, you did not do a comprehensive forensic evaluation, correct? I was not asked to do that. I was asked to give a general testimony to the parties and the gentlemen of the jury. Understood. When you say general testimony, that means you did not meet a single witness, correct? That's correct. You did not review a single witness statement. That's correct. That is different from your forensic practice. It's different from your clinical practice where you listen to details, correct? It's different role that I do as a forensic psychologist, yes. You know that there's a court reporter here who takes down what people say during the trial every day, correct? Yes. You didn't review any transcripts from any prior days of this trial, correct? I did not. You didn't review any police reports? I did not. You didn't review any medical or psychological records? I did not. You didn't cross check or do anything like that with family members or friends? I did not. To cut to the chase, you have not gathered detailed information about the specific facts of this case, correct? I'm not rendering any opinions about a specific individual. So let's be clear about that. Point 1. You have not done any work to gather detailed information about the specific facts of this case, correct? Correct. This is not my role. And you have not gathered detailed information about any of the women who testified in this case, correct? Correct. Have you heard that there's someone named Cassie? I have seen a headline. I don't know who that is, who that is other than that. But you don't know what she said on the witness stand. I do not. You don't know what her demeanor was, how she was present, how she was presented. I do not. You don't know what she said in her text to Mr. Combs. I do not. You don't know anything else about her psychological history or her background, correct? That's correct. You don't know anything about her drug use, right? That's correct. And that's because you're just here. Let's just be clear about this. You're just here providing general background information, correct? Right. It's called subject matter testimony on my area of expertise. That's correct. You can call it that, or you can call it a general background information, correct? Objection. Government objects. Argumentative. Court says sustain. You're not providing any opinion on any particular fact in this case, correct? That's correct. And you understand that while you're giving subject matter or general background evidence, that while you're doing that, you understand from all of your experience that the jury job is to consider the specific facts and the evidence in this case. Objection. Sustain. Now, I want to make sure you and I agree on terms. I call it general background testimony, but what you're saying, but what was your preferred term? General subject matter testimony. You have given more or less the same general subject matter testimony that you gave in this court. You have given it in open court in other cases, correct? Because this is my area of expertise. So the answer is yes, correct? Yes, that's correct. So in other courtrooms, you have come in, you have taken the witness stand, you have talked about memory, right? Yes. Talk about coping, correct? Yes. Talked about reporting, correct? Correct. You have said many of the same things you have told us about here today, correct? Probably. And you have been hired by a number of different prosecutors' offices to do that, correct? Correct. You have done it for this prosecutor's office before, correct? Correct. You just discussed how you have done it across the river in the Brooklyn. Is that correct? That's correct. You have done it in the state cases brought by state ADAs in the number of domestic violence cases, correct? That's correct. You have given this same subject matter of general background testimony, even though in all of those cases, none of them involved the same people, correct? Correct. None of them involved the same evidence, correct? Correct. In other words, it's not keyed to the particular facts at the issue in this case, correct? I think it's key to the jury understanding the issues that they are trying to understand. But the jury is here to understand the evidence in the case, correct? Yes, because you have given this general testimony a number of times now. Over how many years have you been given this same general testimony? I don't know if I'm giving the same general testimony, but I was first qualified in 1999 in Kings County. You're talking about your understanding of the literature, right? Correct. And you're talking about lessons that you've learned from your own experience, correct? Correct. By the way, that experience that you are in your own private practice, that's confidential, correct? About individual patients, of course. And you haven't published any data related to patients. No, I have not. So you haven't shared information about the dates of your experience with the prosecutors, right? Of my patients? Right. No. You haven't shared with them the judge. You haven't shared them with the judge. Of course not. You certainly haven't shared with them with me, right? No. When you say that something that you know, something from your experience, there is no way that I can do any of the specific forensic cross check or any of the data points to see whether what you're saying, someone might interpret that, might interpret what your patients have said to you in a slightly different ways, correct? Possibly. And given the summary of the literature a number of times, there's no fact. There's no individual pieces of data from this case that I could present to you that would lead you to say, oh, you know what? All the literature is different than I thought, right? Correct. I mean, I could sit here and throw facts at you all day, but you are just here to say that your understanding of the literature is correct. Right. I could tell you about Cassie. I could tell you about the evidence in this case, and you'd say, "Well, I know my experience." Correct? I don't understand the question. What I'm trying, I may be already there, but you're here to talk about what you say is your experience and what you say the literature can be distilled as saying. But you are not here to say what particular witness state of mind is, correct? That's correct. By the way, you talked about coping and you said that there was this informal coping, correct? Strategies, yes. Coping strategies, right? But coping, that's a common term, right? Yes. People cope with all kinds of things. Coping is kind of like dealing with things, right? Yes. And you talked about, I think it's in response to the prosecutor's question, you distinguish between formal coping mechanisms and informal coping mechanisms, right? Yes. And you talked about formal coping. You talked about going to the police or the authorities, correct? As one, yes. And when you talk about formal coping mechanisms, you talked about going to family and friends, right? Yes. And when you didn't mention anyone going to a civil plaintiff lawyer, correct? Correct. And many people talk to civil plaintiff lawyers for different reasons, right? Objection. It's overruled. Can you read the question? Can you, she answers, can you read back the question? Sure. Give me one sec, y'all. Let me get a drink. Okay. Um Hooey. Are y'all okay? Let me know. Let me know. Did you guys hit that like button, please? And thank you. Let's see where we're at. Thank you. Thank you. Can we get 300 likes? Please, please, please. I know the ice helps my throat. That's why I'm like chewing on it. I love it. We might have to introduce, but the thing about the ice is that then I like lose like sense of my mouth if I chew too much. Ice, ice, baby. Oh man, I know I'm getting there. So I'm gonna stop soon and upload this because we have so many cross. The cross is very important on this. I didn't want to miss out and let the people know what was going on. I'm trying to. We're delivering as much as we can. Cold iced coffee fun. You need more. Yeah, I do. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Sylvia, again for the $1.99. Thank you, Mary. Thank you for the $4.99. I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Y'all are amazing. Thanks, guys. Um, you said I need to be sponsored by herbal tea with honey. Put a word in for me. I would like to be sponsored by Audibles. Audibles. I like to do a little Audibles for Audibles. Okay. I can really inflect, interject, and do different things on my voice if I get paid. Paz, thank you so much for this. Aw, y'all are amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hot beverages. I don't like hot beverages though. Messica. I like your name, Messica. I can't with the hot beverages. Like I don't know. I don't like hot beverages. Vanilla Ice was in concert around here last month. Oh, really? He still does music? What? Okay. All right, Vanilla Ice. Um anyway, I make you follow, but that's a good thing for those ASMR folks. Audibles, if y'all know if Audibles is hiring, let me know. Is it fast? I'm glad that you guys are liking this. This is word for word, right? Because what we want to hear, we want to see what's going on, who got nervous and everything. Thank you. Thank you. Although I will say my voice, I am hooked on phonics. Still, I was the hooked on phonics kid. So I forget certain words. I forget to read certain words. So I have to go back and so if I have that moment, I do apologize. Or I forget how to pronounce a word. I can know the word, but I forget how to pronounce it. That's like my disability. But thank you. Thank you, Pika. Pika, you changed your picture. Shout out to you, Pika. Okay. All right, let's get it together. Let's finish up a little bit more. And then I'm gonna stop and then do an upload on this because I do need to take a break. And I gotta take a break. Okay, so where did we leave off at? So the government objection. So they were talking about civil lawyers, but some people do go to civil lawyers. Hold up, let's go up a little bit. Okay, can you read the question? Sure. People might do a civil plaintiff lawyer. People might go to a civil plaintiff lawyer for different reasons, right? Correct. And one of them might be to make some money, correct? I would say they go to civil lawyers to right a wrong. But some people go to civil lawyers because they want to make a little money based on a claim. Objection. Court says, let's move on. When you do forensic work, the work that you do when you do a comprehensive forensic evaluation, that's often in the context of a civil case brought by a civil plaintiff's lawyer, correct? I do both civil and criminal work. In the civil context, you do forensic works where there are money damages at stake, right? Correct. And that's where you engage in testing to look for the possibility of malingering, right? Right. That's where you approach the person you're interviewing with a healthy skepticism, correct? Yes. That's where you have your concerns about motivation, correct? Yes. You were talking about memory, right? Yes. And you were explaining why people have hazy memories and why they might recall things in fragments over a period of time, right? I don't know if I said they recall things in fragments over the period of time, over the time, but their memory can be fragmented. Let me ask you this hypothetical. Let's say that there is a time one. Someone has a hazy memory. They recall a few things. They do the best they can at the time, but they recall a few things. Then time two, after they have hired a civil plaintiff lawyer and they have made a claim for money damages, they now recall details that they didn't recall before. Objection. Court says, hold on for 1 second. I'm going to sustain the objection. You can try to rephrase and ask the question a different way. Sure. You talked about issues with memory, correct? Yes. There might be all kinds of reasons why people happen to have new memories after consulting a lawyer, correct? Objection. That's sustained. Let me rephrase. You talk about the neurobiology of stress, correct? Yes. And you said that neurobiology of stress can explain why people's memory might change over time, correct? I don't think I said they may change over time. They may certainly can be recalled over time based on context and cues. So you can have different time periods where those contexts and cues evoke a memory. And memories do change over time, correct? They do. And a memory issue, a lapse of memory, a forgotten detail, that can be the result of let me see how you say this word because I want to say it correctly. One second. I feel like I know what it is. Hold on, pronunciation. Prevarication. What does that even mean? An act of lying, specifically in a way that skirts around the truth or avoid giving direct answer. Okay, let me highlight this. And a memory issue, a lapse of memory, a forgotten detail, can be a result of a prevarication, correct? Prevarication, did you say? Yes. As a result of lying? Yes. I guess anything is possible. One moment. Mr. Box says, one moment, please. Court says, we are seeing it up here. Let's take that down. Okay. So there's something up there that they need to take down. You understand that there are times, so Bach continues to question, you understand that there are times when people's memory issues can be related to prevarication, correct? Yes. That's a fancy way of saying there are circumstances in which people may shade the truth, correct? Correct. And that's not because of neurobiology of the brain, correct? Correct. That's for other motives and reasons, correct? Yes. Now you testified on direct that you have been retained many times as an expert, correct? Yes. And you testified in court multiple times as an expert as well, right? Correct. So much so that you've become comfortable training other experts to testify in court, correct? I don't know if I train experts to testify in court, but we certainly train mental health professionals and lawyers and judges about the intersection between trauma and the courtroom. I don't you train them on how to testify in court? I think I did one training years ago on battered women for the clearinghouse on how to do that. But most of the time, the trainings are how to conduct comprehensive forensic assessments. But you have given people tips on how to prepare for and present themselves in a courtroom setting, right? Yes. And those are tips for battered women advocates who don't have the level of training and sometimes have to come into court. And hold up. That's not a question. I learned a new word today, okay? They're catching up to her. Actually, let me stop. So the question was, but you have given people tips on how to prepare for and present themselves in court setting, right? Her answer, yes. There are tips for battered women advocates who don't have the level of training and sometimes have to come into court. Okay. And he asks, Bach, and you gave tips on how to answer questions both on direct examination and on cross-examination, correct? I don't remember the presentation, but probably. I think that's what you're referring to. Just to be clear, is a webinar you gave in May 2015 entitled Expert Witness Testimony in Cases Involving Domestic Violence, correct? And who was that by? That was presented by you and Marianne Dutton, correct? For the National Clearinghouse for the Defense of Battered Women. Okay, let me highlight that. That was 10 years ago, correct? Yeah. 10 years ago, you were training other experts how to give testimony in DV domestic violence cases, correct? Correct. Let me show you a defense exhibit. Steiner. Your Honor, I haven't seen this exhibit. Just for the parties, Mr. Bach says. Do you have a copy for the government? Mr. Bach says, yes. Just for the parties and the court for now. Parties, lawyers, and the court. Court says, all right, let's have a brief sidebar. All right, everybody get your drinks. They're at the bar. Okay. Here we go. And this is probably where we're going to stop. Everybody get your drinks. They're at the bar. Okay. Let me get my ice because I need to chew. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. We go need a refill. Okay. Court says, how are you using this document? Mr. Bach says, she mentioned it. I'm using it to show her bias to the orientation. I'm not going to spend that much time on it, but I'm going to go through some things to show that she has a certain approach and agenda in these types of cases, that she is essentially not just a clinical psychologist or a forensic psychologist that she testified, but she has become a professional expert. The court, I understand the relevance, but you can't put it in front of her and try to get it into evidence unless there's a basis for doing so. That's what I'm asking. What is the basis? The basis is bias, and it goes to the orientation and bias of a witness. It's her background. There are other pieces that I have to bring out. For instance, she talks about coping here, which is something that she testified to substantively so that I want to talk to her about coping. I'm not going to go over every page or spend a lot of time on it, but I think it's relevant for the jury to see. She is not coming here for a professional, as a professional psychologist who is learned in the discipline, but she is coming here as someone who has honed herself to be an expert, and that, okay, the court speaks. I understand the relevance, believe me, understand why you're doing this, but you're going to attempt to impeach the witness with statements from this document. Then you would go through the steps of doing that. If there is a basis, then you could seek admission as a prior inconsistent statement. However, you have got to go through those steps. Bach speaks. I'm not offering it as a prior inconsistent statement, at least not yet. I'm offering it as an impeachment in a different sense, that it shows bias. It's not that she has made a statement that's false, that I'm impeaching. It's bias to show her orientation. So respectfully, I don't think that's the kind of evidentiary foundation is necessary for the admissibility of this. Okay, Ms. Steiner, court looks at Ms. Steiner. Your Honor, I think the court has a deadline for exhibits that we are seeking to have admitted for both parties for a reason. We have never reviewed this before. I have no idea what's in it or whether it's relevant. I would ask that the court and the government have the ability to review the document. The government doesn't object, like Your Honor is suggesting. Just to have him question the witness and pursue a line of impeachment potentially about bias. But introducing the document without even having reviewed it, I have no doubt. Just the things that you are describing. Okay. Bach, you want a couple of minutes? It's her resume that you provided to us. It's a presentation in a resume that's right on point in this case. There is nothing. It won't take you very long to review this. I don't mind. The court says, I'm happy to take a recess. I guess you would agree that there isn't an issue in terms of the court's order from the weekend because this is a document that's been used for impeachment purposes. Is that fair? Ms. Steiner speaks. If this is only used for impeachment purposes, the court, Mr. Bach has said that. You're not using it in any kind of affirmative purpose. It's purely for impeachment. Bach speaks. This has nothing to do with our case in chief. Comey stands up and speaks. Comey's the other attorney for the government. If I may, Your Honor, I've had a chance to look through this. I've had a chance to look through this. My concern is that I think if Your Honor actually reviews it, you will see that the face of the document, as far as I can tell, shows no indication of bias along the lines that counsel just articulated. I think it would be helpful for Your Honor to take a look because in reading through this quickly, I don't see any indication of bias. Mr. Bach, I'll lay the foundation, but the bias is that you presented her as someone who has come into the courtroom as a professor, okay, at Cornell, as someone who has clinical practice, as someone who has a forensic practice. I don't think that's a complete portrayal of the kind of background and energy and motivation that she has here. I think this puts the way that you've characterized her in a different light that is bias and motive. And everything bias is always relevant. If I may respond, Ms. Coney speaks. I think that Mrs. Steiner also elicit how many times she has testified, what kind of case she has testified in, and how many times she has been qualified as an expert. I'll note that Ms. Steiner, I think, rushed through the part of her direct examination because we had a sidebar during which we were told to move on past the qualifications aspect. Part of this is that her direct was short-circuited. We did not mean to suggest that there was any sort of bias here or to create a setup. The court speaks. I'm going to ask the jury to take a brief recess and we can address this. Thank you, Your Honor, says Ms. Steiner. The court, members of the jury, we have a matter that needs to be addressed. Okay, so I'm going to stop right here. So they all rise and they take a break. Okay, the jury's not present and they go back and forth. Dr. Hughes, I'm going to ask you to step out and we'll call you back in a couple minutes. Give me a moment. Okay. So Dr. Hughes leaves. All right. So first issue, Ms. Shapiro, is this the document that was emailed to the court yesterday? Yes. Shapiro's with the defense. Yesterday, Ms. Shapiro sent an email on ex parte basis to the court requesting advice about whether to disclose certain information, and this was the document. The court promptly responded that the court is not permitted to give, neither side advice about the rules, that the court referred the defense to its order for the weekend and discussions last week. So that was just to make sure that everyone on the same page is here. I'm now reviewing this document. What should I look at here? Ms. Comey speaks. Your Honor, from the government's perspective, this just shows neutral bullet points about any witness, specifically any expert witness might think about when preparing to testify. We don't see that it shows this witness as an agenda, a bias, has a favors one side or the other, one party or the other. So we don't see any basis to believe that this document would be admissible to prove that. The court speaks. So the government doesn't object to the form of this document. It's just a rule of 403 basis. The government doesn't believe that, well, you've made the objection. Mr. Bach, can you just walk me through where you're getting at with this? Okay, hold up, y'all. Ooh-wee. How's everybody doing? We're almost done, I promise. I have to take a break here. Mr. Bach speaks. They view this as a neutral document and not presented as a 403 argument in terms of any prejudice. If they view it as a neutral document, great. What is this? A document in which she receives an organization that receives funding from the Department of Justice on violence against women. She testified a moment ago that this was a presentation for battered women advocates. She has testified previously that what she does is provide training for legal professionals and experts. She's now described it as a battered women's advocate. Those are people who advocate for a perspective. And she also answered my question by saying initially that she doesn't do this kind of work and that she doesn't prepare people to appear in court. So without going into details of my cross, I think I'm going to spend less than 5 minutes on this to let people know that she's in the business, contrary to her testimony on direct, not simply providing clinical services, not simply providing forensic evaluations, but that she's really someone who participates in a different professional world and in a different professional category, which she has over the last number of years become someone who makes most of her money as a professional witness. And she's got kind of a cottage industry in this kind of general testimony. And I think this is a very relevant to our defense. It puts in perspective who she is. With experts, it's very dangerous because they come in with an aura of authority about them based on the discipline. She testified at length that her training in New Haven, her PhDs, and suggesting that her knowledge comes from the world of academia, the world of psychological textbooks, from her own experience. But there's a perspective that forms her testimony that the defense is entitled. That defense is obviously entitled to present a defense, but the court interrupts. Ms. Comey, I'm understanding you correctly. You have no issue with Mr. Bach asking questions about the documents. Ms. Comey speaks. 100%, Your Honor. Everything that Mr. Bach is just saying, depending on the questionings, depending on how the questions are formed, totally appropriate cross-examination. The issue is presenting this document to the jury has very minimal value because, among other reasons, it's a neutral document on its face. It doesn't show bias. It has an extreme risk of confusing the issue. This would be a very confusing document to put in front of a jury, and it would lead us down a sideshow where, on redirect, we would feel obligated to go through it and have her explain essentially this training that she gave so the jury's not confused about what's in this document. It's a sideshow. That's not necessary for Mr. Bach to make the point that he wants to. And if Dr. Hughes doesn't remember any of the details of the presentation that Mr. Bach wants to ask about, he can certainly pull a page up to refresh her recollection so that she knows what she's talking about. The point is this should not be this should not be shown to the jury. All right, Bach speaks. Judge, the rules for admissibility are broad, and the ability of a defendant to present a defense should not be curtailed. All right, let me stop right here. How far do we go? How much does the court have? Okay, let's finish this sidebar. Right, but you think, Ms. Comey, point is anything you could get through testimony about the fact that a training was given. The document itself, now that I'm reviewing it, doesn't really say anything about anything. I mean, it provides information about how to go to court, meaning minding your personal appearance, conduct in the courthouse, time management, personal safety. In general terms, it talks about demeanor. Listen to the questions, nature of expert testimony, not a conversation. Know your audience, etc., etc. It doesn't have anything in here about being biased or not giving truthful testimony, anything of that kind. I'm reviewing the whole document. But I think you've asked Dr. Hughes if she had provided any trainings of this nature, and she indicated she had given a training to advocates. And I think it's fair, and I think Ms. Comey agrees, that she can be shown the document to refresh her recollection, and she is in fact gave a training to expert witnesses, and you can ask questions along those lines. I'm not seeing a basis under Rule 403, as I now understand the objection for this to go into evidence, which is a separate issue. So I'm going to sustain the objection to the admission of the document. However, you can ask questions about it. You can refresh the witness recollection using the document. And if the witness denies any of the statements that are in this document, you can potentially introduce the document at this point, or at least the portion of the document that contains the inconsistent statements. Now, Ms. Comey, you had mentioned something about qualification process and that in your view, and it has been short-circuited, which certainly was not the court's intent. Just to make sure we're on the same page, the objection and the reason why the court had asked the defense whether there was an objection to the qualifications is that in the process of providing her credentials, Dr. Hughes began to provide her substantive opinions in the case. And this is perhaps perhaps Dr. Hughes did not heed her own advice not to have a conversation on the stand, which came up from time to time. That's the reason for the objection, because instead of just outlining her qualifications, she began to provide her substantial opinions, some of which the defense viewed was outside of the bounds of the court's prior ruling. That was the issue. Thank you, Your Honor. I will permit, however, on redirect examination, there is a missing component that would go to the Rule 702 objection, and that was raised after the direct examination, and you feel like there's a gap that you need to fill. Then you can do that. Mr. Bach can address it at recross, so we have a full record when the court consider that application. Thank you so much, Your Honor. I apologize for the misunderstanding, the sidebar earlier. And that's what happens when things come up in the heat of the moment. Thank you, Judge. Let's have Dr. Hughes back, and we'll bring our jury back. Okay, stop right here. This is page 183. Lord have mercy. 183, and we still have through 227 to go through. Okay, we're going to stop right here. Oh my God. That's a lot. That's a lot. The sidebars are in the bars. Wow. This is the kind of stuff that we all miss because we're not there. You know, we're not there. What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat, y'all. I got to stop because I'm tired. We've been live for 2 hours, and I got to gain some energy because we're going to be live definitely Monday. Not Monday, I'm sorry, Tuesday. What do you guys think? We're building up to when they basically we're building off, basically. This is going to be interesting. That's how I see it. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. You love that we're in the loop? I know, right? It's something different. When you know the details, or even the rabbit, or even the people that are there. I don't know this rabbit. Wait, what? What? I missed it, y'all. I missed it. Cheeks, thank you. We need to move beyond the idea of battered women as a society. Men are victims too, and equally valid. I agree with you on this. I agree with you on this. So agree with you on this. Thank you for being a member for 21 months, Cheeks. Thank you, thank you. Oh, I try, but I'm like, ugh. Is Diddy going to testify? Oh, I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. I know Cheeks has been around for almost two years. She's getting there. Thank you, Cheeks. Thank you. Oh my gosh, Pinche Becky, thank you so much for gifting memberships. If y'all been blessed by Pinche Becky, put some hearts or confettis in the chat. I can't do it because I'm sharing the screen. Maybe I'll remove it now. Hold up, let's do that. By the way, this is the doctor right here. That's the doctor for those that don't know. Let me remove this. Stop share. Okay. See if I can do some reactions. Yay. Thank you, Pinche Becky. Put some hearts or confettis in the chat. Or hearts. Thank you. All right, guys. Well, I gotta go because I'm tired. But you guys, if you're watching the replay, let me know. Oh my God, I disappeared. Here we go. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about this. I really, really appreciate it. Morris17, thank you for being a member for freaking 7 months. Thank you. I like that we all get to see it so we can understand the case in its entirety. Yes. Thank you. You found me through Mark Leda, and she never left. Shout out to Cheeks. Shout out to my wonderful mods. I know everybody finds me through somewhere, and I've never left, and I've been stuck since. Yes, I'm going to rest up. I got to go to the store. Thank you, Toady. Thank you. Y'all are amazing. Thank you, everybody. I didn't get the mouse that I wanted, so I got to go to anyways, I'm like dealing with that because it'll be more efficient when I'm editing. This is the mouse that I have. And so what I'm noticing is that I'm getting a lot of strain. So there's this mouse that's specific for the MacBook. So that's going to help me. I don't know. It's like a lot. I'm doing a lot of editing, y'all. So yes. All right, y'all. I got to go because I got to go and rest my throat and my voice. But y'all, let me know what you guys think in the comments. We will finish this on a pre-recorded video. I'll work on that. But now my pages are shorter. We have, hold on, I have a list of the pre-recordeds. We definitely got to do the video on the makeup artist because I'm the makeup artist that did all those interviews. Okay. And then we have to do, who else? Dawn Hughes we're working on. Oh, we still have to do Cassie's. I got several hours on Cassie. So that's my work right there. Carrie Morgan is another one that we have to do. And then the rest, the Homeland Security people, we still have to work on the Punisher. Okay, the freezer meat guy. We got to work on that. But you guys have a beautiful Sunday. I will see you guys later. Bye, guys. Hit the like button. Bye, guys.